Back to square one. Boys, listen, I recorded a video, all right? 25, 30 minute worth of footage this morning. After pay-per-view, I told myself this morning, I'm waking up and recording, right? And I take the file, and for some reason, there was no audio. Whatever it was, my mic, the USB plug, my camera, my computer, whatever it was. There's a whole lot of I'm not good with this stuff. Like, there's too many cables in front of me, and I'm like, maybe one of it just unplugs at any point during the time that I'm recording this. Then we're not hearing. I need a producer. You know the guy that holds up these signs? You could be like, all right, something's going on or something. But yeah, that probably wouldn't be very smart of me. All right, I'll just figure it out on my own. I'll be good. UFC 294 happened last night. Do you like my sign? I put up this sign already now, so we're back to the glory days, my prime days. You know, this is what we have now. We're back. Hopefully, we're gonna start recording some more often, but we have to go back to the prediction video I made 5 days ago, which for some odd reason, because I'm just so good at this, pretty much everything came to life, or almost. You know what I mean? On Instagram, I have like a TFB Instagram where I post some reels and stuff like that, and the guy that manages my Instagram, he makes like these predictions reels or shorts of the full form videos that I make, and he didn't add Said Nurmagomedov. If you didn't watch the full video, in the prediction video, I talked about Said Nurmagomedov. He's one of my favorite fighters, and you probably know him too by now. Like, he's just so great. He reminds me a little bit of Zabit, and he had this wonderful submission in like a minute yesterday. And yeah, like I said, he's one prospect at 135 that we have to be on the lookout for, because he's really interesting to watch. He's pretty much good everywhere, striking, super like technical, and flashy on the feet, which is fun. There's cons and pros about being flashy on the feet, but at the same time, whenever there's guys that are able to bring those qualities to the ring as a striker, or to the octagon as a striker, it just makes it fun. It makes it fun to watch. Now, obviously, the cons of being a flashy striker is usually stamina and like pressure fighters, which is what Gafurov is. When I watched the first fight of his in the UFC, he pressured the guy he was fighting a lot, and he lost a like close decision, I think, or something like that. And he was good off, with the pressure and stuff like that. So I was a bit scared for Said, but if you throw like a sloppy, if you shoot a sloppy takedown on Said Nurmagomedov early in the rounds, like, the dude snatch your neck, it's over. He's so slick, fast, and if you shoot, like I said, sloppy, he'll find a way. His submissions off of his back as well is super, super great. So like I said, Said Nurmagomedov, be on the lookout for him. When he fights, watch him fight, because I swear you won't be disappointed. As of now, I have not watched a Said Nurmagomedov boring fight. He's always in bangers. So I'm super happy for him. Ikram Aliskerov also had a massive KO. Maybe y'all don't know this, but I'm kind of a casual with this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I just found out that Aliskerov and Chimaev actually fought in another promotion back in the good old days, and Aliskerov got flatlined by Chimaev, like, bad. It was one of those, stiff KOs like this. You know what I mean? But he actually, for the few minutes that they fought, he actually stuffed pretty much all the takedowns that Chimaev threw at him, and he did all right. Obviously, it felt like Chimaev was just faster and stronger on the feet, but it was still a very, very interesting fight for as long as it lasted. And since then, Chimaev's is only the feet. So Aliskerov's on the rise. He's another guy that we need to watch at 185. I think he's going to be very, very good. Johnny Walker versus Magomed Ankalaev. Like, what a bummer, right? I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I don't really know what happens, whether he said I'm in the desert or not. I don't know. But from what we were looking at, he looked like he was there, right? Guys get hit in the face for a few minutes. They're flashed a little bit. This is what happens, in mixed martial arts. You can't expect the guy to, I don't know, especially if you're in a fight, you're not thinking about where you're at or what you're doing. Maybe you know what you're doing, but you know what I mean? You have your mind into the fight. So as a fighter, you're not going to be thinking about any other thing. So when a doctor comes and asks you 2 + 2, I'll be like, well, let me pull out my calculator or something. I don't know, right? So I don't blame Johnny Walker for saying in the desert, because to be honest, if I'm in a fight, like, adrenaline's pumping. Where the fuck is Abu Dhabi even? I don't really know. So yeah, I can't blame him whether he was concussed or not. He did look a bit confused, but like I said, it felt trash. At the same time, most likely they're gonna rebook that fight, so that'd be fun. And yeah, the whole scuffle at the end was kind of dope too. We always like to see kind of drama. So shout out to Johnny Walker for bringing drama. Like, yo, get out the ring. We're fighting. Like, that would have been just fun. Yo, follow me backstage. We'll fight. Johnny Walker is just cool. And Magomed Ankalaev, but you have to feel bad for him. He arguably wins his last fight against Jan Blachowicz, and now gets into a fight with Johnny Walker, who's ranked number 11, who's a very dangerous puncher at 6'6". You know what I mean? It's a risky fight. And he gets a draw, no contest for like a weird doctor stoppage that really doesn't make any sense. Like, what's the luck of him? Sometimes there's just people that don't have luck, and you have to feel bad for them because, yeah, like I said, it's just, yeah, nothing seems to go right for Magomed Ankalaev, but he's still a great prospect. And if they were to fight again, I would still pick him probably to win. So, yeah, if we're moving on to Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman, I'll make a separate video on them. There's a lot to discuss about that fight, and I made like some topics, but I'll just move on strictly to the main event because I think that is the main storyline of UFC 294. Obviously, what can I say? What can I really say about this main event? Like, can I start just by saying I told you? Obviously, I'm not an expert at any of this, but the ending of the last fight at UFC 284 between them, right? I'm going to repeat what everybody else says, and I'm sorry. You already know this, but everything was in Volkanovski's corner. It was in his home country with his fans in attendance. Less rehydration for Islam Makhachev, whether you like it or not, right? People will say, like Volkanovski said in the press conference, like, why do you need more? Like, Makhachev's a big lightweight. You know what I mean? Volkanovski's the guy moving up to lightweight from featherweight, so he doesn't need as much rehydration. The weight cut isn't as hard for him. So for Makhachev, obviously the full rehydration time after the weigh-in is very crucial and important. So if it's cut down by, 6, 10, 12 hours, it's valuable to Islam, right? So for any other lightweights, I'm sure like they want the full rehydration time. So when that was cut down in Australia, it felt like a big blow to Islam's, ability to perform. And, full training camp for Volk at UFC 284. Now it's pretty much the complete opposite. 11 days notice. Islam had the full training camp. It was in Abu Dhabi with Islam's fans. Like, it just brings the energy out of the fighters. And he had the full rehydration plan. So it just felt like there was no way Volkanovski could win. And that's what I predicted. A lot of people were like, but, he's going to crack him. He's going to knock him out. He's going to come out like vicious. And whenever people like that were telling me, I'm like, when's the last time Volk ever knocked somebody out unconscious? You know what I mean? Like, I'll give you that. He did TKO Yair Rodriguez, but Volk is not the guy to knock people out with one punch. He's more of like a rough, durable fighter that will put pressure on you with volume and stuff, and he'll mix it up. He's one of the best MMA mixed martial arts pound for pound in the world today still, but he's not the one-punch KO power that like Josh Emmett is, or guys like Calvin Kattar or Ilya Topuria. Those are like some very hard-punching dudes. Volk is also very good, and you don't want to just leave your chin up in the air, but you get what I'm saying? Like, he hasn't knocked anybody out with one punch at featherweight. So how is he going to do that to a lightweight in Makhachev? You know what I mean? Who's extremely good defensively, striking-wise. So in my mind, it just didn't make sense. In my mind, it was a clear pick. And I guess, like I said, Islam had to prove everybody wrong because it was in the first round, which tells me even more like Volk had the most amount of energy in the first round. If let's say Islam had like tried to grapple him for the first 3 rounds and then submitted him in the fourth, like people would be like, it's 11 days notice. He just tried to gas him out and submit him when he was tired and stuff like that. But he actually knocked him out. The grappler KOs the striker in the first round. There's no question. There's no question that Islam is, for 155, he's the better fighter. And I think, like I said, it's time that, even Volk fans, they need to admit it. They need to admit it. And they should have admitted it at the end of the first fight, to be honest. But they were coping too hard to now think that Volk could beat Islam on 11 days notice. That just, to me, didn't make any sense. MMA is unpredictable, and that's the beauty of MMA. But, you know, I always understand, like I said, I always understand guys that, you know, you can make a pick about anybody. Like, anybody can win at any given time, and we've seen it so many times in MMA. But if we're speaking realistically speaking, based on facts and based on like previous outcomes, picking Volkanovski to win this fight to me made no sense at all. But he had that dog in him, so he had that. Maybe he could have won. like I said, I don't want to bash Volkanovski at all. I think it's a thing that we need to like congratulate him for like pulling up on 11 days notice, like showing up and fighting on 11 days notice. A champion doing that is extremely rare, and that's why there's a bit of saltiness in me as well, because, you know, when you see a guy showing up on 11 days notice to fight and get brutally KO'd in the first round like this, if you're another fighter watching this, you're fighting in the UFC, you look at this, you're like, maybe I shouldn't show up on 11 days notice. You know, that doesn't make sense. But that same quality is what makes a fighter, you know, that can turn a possibility or a risk into one of the biggest reward in a fighter's career. And that's what saved this pay-per-view from drowning, because when Charles Oliveira and Paulo Costa pulled out, like, this card was in shambles, right? If Volkanovski and Usman didn't showed up to win to fight, this card would have been trashed. Like, nobody would have watched it. The whole hype would have been downed. And this is the type of quality that makes a fighter a fighter. A fighter that can pull up on 11 days notice, fight the best in the world at any given time. So that quality to me is very important. And I just hope this doesn't like influence other fighters to be like, you know what, that risk doesn't make sense, because any reward always comes with a risk. So you have to take that into consideration always. Like, there's nothing you can achieve in life that comes easy or that comes with no risk. If there's no possibility of you failing, then there's no success. There'll never be no success. So I think that mentality is very important, especially in a fighter, and I hope guys still keep that. It definitely sucks for Volkanovski, because I saw him say in the post-fight interview, he said, like, you know, you don't take a short notice fight against Islam, and I guess that kind of makes sense. Against a guy like Islam, it's, you know, you have to prepare well for him. So yeah, for you have to feel for Volkanovski, and, you know, whatever happens next, to be honest, yeah, I'm just hoping that he doesn't go on like some Tony Ferguson losing streak, because he's not my favorite fighter, but we don't want to see the champion of the world go down like that. It just feel like, you know, one of those like knockout that can crumble somebody's confidence. Hopefully it doesn't. I'm knocking on wood. But yeah, Topuria is going to be a big test, and if he fights in January as well, like 3 months from now, damn, that's a tough ask. I guess whenever these changes were announced for UFC 294, like that, Usman was going to come in on 11 days notice to fight Chimaev, and Volkanovski was going to come in to fight Makhachev. In my mind, I was like, if these two guys win the fights, this sport does not make any more sense. And it was kind of like, I was kind of hoping that it didn't happen. I was rooting for Usman, and I did want to see Makhachev I did want to see Volkanovski put up a good fight. But in my mind, if these two guys were going to win, it was going to be like, what are we even watching at this point? You know what I mean? Because let me put this into perspective, like for comparisons. If in any other sport, right, in any other sports, there's no other sports like MMA, but you take, let's say, the number 1 seed in the NBA and you face them up against the 30th seed, right? The last team in the NBA rankings. If they match up together, 99% of the time, the number 1 seed will win. And like that just happens for sport. Why? Because there's more technicalities. There's better players on the team. There's something that makes a sport. That team is better than this team. Why? Because there's greater value in that team. You know, they've proven their success many more times. So whenever you match them up against each other, 9 times, 10 times out of 10 even, the number 1 seed will win. Like, there's always exceptions, but MMA is one of those where sometimes you can mix and match and everybody's winning against anybody, right? And that's what makes the sport great. But at the same time, I didn't want to keep some sense of order, some sense of like, this guy's the best because he's proven us. You can't put him up against a 145er on 11 days notice. He's going to lose that. To me, in my mind, that didn't make sense. There's no way that can happen. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that it didn't, just because it can reinstate some sense of order in the sport and in the lightweight division as well. Like, imagine if Volkanovski was the champion now. I'd be like, what? Like, now there's so many possibilities. And in my mind, it just, maybe I'm just a hater, but it didn't make sense. I was like, Islam's meant to be the lightweight champion, while Volkanovski's meant to be there. He's 35. Was he actually going to fight and entertain both of these divisions as much as he was saying he would? So all of that to say that I think Makhachev staying the champion just keeps the order, and maybe I'm just biased because I want to see Oliveira be the one that dethrone Makhachev. I'm just a biased motherfucker. I ain't gonna lie. Maybe that's just what it is. But let me know your thoughts about it down below. I'll make another video about Hamza Chimaev versus Usman, which was a great storyline as well. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And I'll make some more videos, right? Inshallah. Inshallah. Ciao, boys.